Hey guys, welcome to 6 Minutes for Wednesday, June 1st. I'm Jason Fulmore, SC Wrestle, and today we're talking about NHSCA duels that just took place in Virginia. It was a long weekend, and that's one of the reasons why we are a little delayed in getting this out. I had hoped to get it out earlier, but 200 plus teams, more than 200 wrestlers that are from the Southeast competed on duels over 3 days for the boys up in Virginia Beach, and yeah, just a lot of matches to watch, a lot of results to go through, and I'm sure I made mistakes as I went through the list. Probably missed some people, probably included some people. In fact, I know I did in certain slides that I probably shouldn't have. So it is what it is. We just roll with it. And yeah, so let's jump in. And one of the things I want to make sure that I touch on before we get into this is, number one, I put a lot of names on each of these slides. There is no way I'm going to be able to talk about each one. There's just not enough time. I'm trying to keep it to 6, 7, 8 minutes. And I just can't talk that quickly. And it doesn't do anyone any justice. So I'm going to pick out a couple of names, talk a little bit about it, but still important to recognize the kids who wrestled exceptionally well. Yeah, so let's jump into the unbeatens. All right, so here we go. First slide, you see the 106 to 160s. Antonio Mills, Georgia, JJP, South Carolina, Cooper Haas from Florida. Fantastic weekend. Didn't probably get the level of competition that Team Shot usually gets. They, I think, made it to day 3, but were eliminated pretty early. And that actually brings up a really important point, and that is not all wins are created equal. Not all losses are created equal. It really depends on how you or who you faced over the course of the 3 days. Cooper dominated everybody he faced. Fantastic weekend. But it still would have been nice to see him go against some of the other top 132s in the country to see how he would have fared. Maybe he wouldn't have been on this list. Maybe he would have been. But he dominated regardless. So did Alex Soto from Florida at 145. Jeremiah Price from North Carolina at 145. He had a really good weekend. Beat Don Fedora from Pennsylvania and Justin Gorman from Michigan. 2 solid wins. Gianni Maldonado from Brandon, Florida. That was one of my oopses on my list because I watched him wrestle several times for Team Shut Penguin. He wrestled lights out, but he did have a loss. He did lose to Dylan Evans of Pennsylvania, 5-2. So he shouldn't be on this list. He should be on the next one. But this was already created, so we just roll with it. Latrell Schaefer had a fantastic weekend for Georgia, as did his teammate on Illinois Team Thunder, Menace Thunder, I believe. Tyler Secoy at 160. Both had fantastic weekends. Some good, tough matches for both of them, but both ended up unbeaten. And then the last person on the list is Joe Seeley. And I always get the question, do you include Joe Seeley? Do you not include Joe Seeley? Well, as I said before, if they go to a national tournament, they list a school from the Southeast, we recognize him. So Jax Forrest, also a North Carolina kid who now lives in Pennsylvania, not on this list. He put Pennsylvania down. Joe Seeley up at Wyoming Sem, at least for the time being, but he put North Carolina down, so we include him. And his best win by far, at least in my opinion, was a 5-3 win over Jackson Arrington of Pennsylvania. Future North Carolina Wolfpack, Jackson Arrington, top level of competition. Joe Seeley wrestled, I think, for Beast of the East, who took second. Fantastic team, fantastic competition. Let's jump over to the unbeatens in 170 through 285. 170, Florida's Christian Motor wrestled really well. Adrian Bruneau wrestled really well. Brian Boberijo wrestled extremely well. Those 3 took care of business. Zion Hall from Georgia had some fantastic wins, including a really dominant tech fall win over Jackson Buck of North Carolina. Zion wrestled superb. I watched a couple of his matches online. Another one of my oopses, Brady Ross from North Carolina. Brady had a fantastic weekend. Only in Oots because I put him on the wrong slide because he did have a loss to Caleb Campos, fellow North Carolina Hammer, who is on the next slide, or not the next slide, a couple slides down of the next group from North Carolina. So probably should have put him there with Caleb. Anyway, finish up with the North Carolina trio up top: Carson Floyd, Nathan Carnes, and Jameer Ferrer. Each were unbeaten on the weekend. Boy, North Carolina brings the heat up top. Those, as we've seen, 220s and 285s from North Carolina always seem to do well, and this was no exception. Floyd, Carnes, and Ferrer wrestled exceptionally well. Ferrer beat Chase Thompson from Florida. Nathan Carnes beat Aiden Buggy, as well as Florida State runner-up Nelson Toro. Really good weekend for that group of unbeatens. All right, so let's jump now to the next group, and we've broken this out by state. Begin with Alabama. Yannick Simon wrestled exceptionally well, but let's talk a little bit about Brady Campbell. Brady Campbell only had one loss on the weekend. I think he was 7-1, something along those lines. And his one loss was to Dom Fendora of Pennsylvania. I believe he was beat 6-0. So definitely one to watch in the state of Alabama. Florida, we had Anderson Heap, who had some really good wins, a good win against Trayson Ohm from South Dakota, a couple of really close losses. Reed Noble wrestled exceptionally well for Team Shut USA. Mikhail Pierce Walker, Team Barracuda, all those Florida kids from John Jensen Beach, and Chase Thompson rounds out the Florida crew. And the final person to talk about on this slide is Teague Strobel. Teague Strobel from South Carolina stepped in. I believe he wrestled for Team Combat Black. No, I believe he wrestled for Roundtree. I'm sorry, all the teams kind of get confusing. Strobel wrestled exceptionally well. He did take a loss to Marco Tocci of Pennsylvania, as well as Isaac Paulino of Massachusetts. But otherwise, Strobel wrestled exceptionally well. Yeah, it's on this list. Let's jump to the next group. Get the Georgia and Tennessee crew. And Monty Mills had one loss, but it was a DQ loss. I didn't get to see it. Otherwise, he might have been on the unbeaten slide. Colin Mullins, Tyler Xavier Knight, Dom Bambinelli wrestled exceptionally well. Did take a loss to Cooper Gill of Pennsylvania. That was his one loss. Tyler Nelson, Mount Pisgah, you'll see a few that are names on this list. Hope Hogan stepped in and wrestled for the eventual champs, Team Shut, Matty S. And as a result, Hoke had a couple losses, but wrestled some of the absolute best kids at 182 pounds. He had a really, really good win against Uranic of New Jersey. He took a loss to Super 32 runner-up Rune Lawrence, as well as Cole Mulhauser of New York. So Hope Hogan ends up on this list, but probably faced one of the best levels of competition of anyone on any of these slides. Logan Eller at 195 also makes the list after a really good weekend. The Urachucks from Tennessee, I think they finished 15, 16, 17, and 3. I think each of them had a loss. I watched a couple of Ethan Urachucks matches, wrestled super well. But the one Tennessee kid I really want to talk about is Colin Duple. Colin wrestled for Team Shut, not USA, not to Throne. Trying to figure out Penguin, Team Shut Penguin. And I think they ended up 5th or 6th. He was on that team with Johnny Maldonado and Kyle Monteperto. He wrestled absolutely fantastic. Dominated in lots of respects. Did have 2 losses to some really good competition, but wrestled, again, just like Hope Hogan, some of the best competition of anyone. Matt Oberlander and Jake Stacy both also had really, really good weekends. All right, let's jump to our North Carolina crew. And you see a lot of names from North Carolina. And the reason you see a lot of names from North Carolina is because I think they had the second most individuals on teams behind Pennsylvania of anyone. So a lot of opportunities. Bentley Sly, Cooper Davis really wrestled well down at 113. Matt Rowland was really good. Charlie Sly. But the one person I want to talk about is Kyle Monteperto. Kyle, again, wrestled for Team Shut Penguin. They made it to day 3, wrestled some fantastic competition. I know Kyle beat Evan Talmadge of New Jersey 2-1 in a super good match and a really good win. I think Kyle's only loss was to Maddox Shaw of Pennsylvania. JT Richards, Mark Samuel, who was part of that Noak RTC of a bunch of future Roanoke kids. Bray Trevette, Eli Murray wrestled exceptionally well. Drew Pepin stepped in and wrestled really lights out. His only loss was to Will Collins of Illinois, and just wrestled fantastic. Davis Freeze, Jaden Dobek took a loss to Tyler Secoy from Georgia. Savoy New, Alex Hopper. We see Caleb Campos, who I mentioned previously, had beaten Brady Ross. Campos lost, I can't remember who he lost to. Then we got Bryce Gadsden. And then the 195s up there, we had Caleb Beatty, Tomas Brooker, and Devin Bell. I think Beatty wrestled both Brooker and Bell and beat both of them. Wrestled fantastic. Always like to see those battles of Southeast kids, North Carolina kids against one another to kind of see where they maybe So let's jump over to this last group of people, last group of wrestlers that maybe didn't finish with 1 loss or 2 losses, but really battled all the way through. And we begin with Florida, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Jewel Williams, Caden Schaefer, Ransom Randolph had a couple of really good wins, including one over fellow Floridian Omar Barak, Chris Griel, Caleb Rodriguez. Over in Tennessee, we had Chancery Dean, Logan Heckert, Rob Atwood wrestled exceptionally well, Miles Workman, and Camille Redford. South Carolina had Richard Springs wrestle extremely well. And again, these are wrestlers that they took a couple of losses, but they bounced back and also had some really quality wins for their weekend. Over in Georgia, we had Lee Camp. Drake McDonald makes the list after a really good weekend. Landon Carlton, Maddox MacArthur had some really good wins. He took a loss, I know, to Florida's Charlie Armstrong, who didn't make this list. So that's something to keep an eye on. Davis Dollar, who we mentioned previously. Marley Washington, Joey Bertrand, Josh Lang. I think those are all Pisgah kids who did well this past weekend as well. And Matt Waddell of Pepperell also makes the list. North Carolina, we had, again, like I said before, we had a lot of them. Jace Barrier wrestled exceptionally well down at 106. Kyle Pruden, I think he was on Combat Athletics Black, which means he got like 9 matches on the weekend. I think he went 6-3 or 5-4, battling the entire time. That's what you like to see. Isaac Sheehan, RJ James, Kevin O'Brien, Luke Kuneth, Calvin Kang, Jackson Buck, who I mentioned earlier, who took a tough loss to Zion Hall, but actually wrestled really well in his other matches. Sam Grena, Hunter Testa, and Seth Blackledge. So congratulations to everyone who competed, whether you made this list or not, or any of these lists. I'm sure that that just the experience of being on the mat and competing has made you better as you progress through the summer and that sort of thing. So congratulations also to everyone who made this list. Super good competition, and you obviously performed well. What else do you need to know today? Well, I think we learned that Logan Ashton, former Georgia Hammer, Stanford NCAA qualifier, is graduated and moving back to UTC for his final years, and will spend those final years at UTC. That's good to have Logan back in the Southeast. And something I ran across just the other day, University of Montevallo, Alabama, is got a listing for a head coaching job, Division II school. So it's really nice to see that we probably are going to have a second college program in the state of Alabama, which would be fantastic. That's it. Look forward to the rest of the week. We're actually having interviews, or I'm talking to all the Tricia Saunders and Dave Schultz award winners for the Southeast. So there will be 12 interviews. I've done many of them already. I haven't done all of them. And those will begin dropping over the next several days, next week, week and a half, as we talk to them about what it means to win the award and where they're headed next and all of that. So hope you guys have a great day, and check back in, watch those interviews.